Hello and welcome back to Leamington. Today we're going to have a look at the outside of the Allegro. In the last little video I did, it was too windy and I was sat inside and we were talking about the fact that it's an 1100 Deluxe 1975 Series 1.5 Allegro. So now we're going to finish off by doing a walk around the car. So first of all, let's have a look at the front. Now if you look at the front grille, you can see the front grille has got the bars going horizontally, and the horizontal bars mean that it's a deluxe. There are other vehicles in the range that had different types of grille, but on the early car, if you see an Allegro with that type of radiator grille, then it is a deluxe. They've all got chrome bumpers. The early cars like this one, they don't have a side repeater lamp, they just have a wraparound indicator side lamp. Two square headlamps at the front, a non-laminated windscreen. So this one is a toughened windscreen. So in other words, if you get a rock hit the glass, it's going to break and shatter. You're going to get covered in bits of glass basically. So something to always bear in mind, particularly when the roads have been gritted or whatever. Not gritted, but you know, stones put on the tarmac, that sort of thing. So yeah, something to bear in mind. This car has got the passenger wing mirror, which was an optional extra. That's the only thing this car had fitted to it when it was brand new, and that would have been a dealer fit option, and I think from memory it costs about £3.24. Moving around to the side, obviously wiper arms in chrome, being an old car. And what we're going to do now is have a look under the bonnet. So let's pull the internal bonnet release. Now, these old cars have got a bit of a reputation for being rust buckets. I'll tell you one thing, the metal they're made out of is infinitely thicker than what you see on a modern car today. This bonnet is quite heavy. Obviously need to secure it with the old-fashioned stay in the middle there. And then Michael, if you want to bring the camera in and look at the engine bay, you can see here the A-series engine, which is on this car a 1.1 litre or 1098cc. Gearbox is in the sump. It's a bit like a Mini really. In fact this whole car is like a giant size Mini. Air cleaner on the top here with the SU carburetor underneath it. It's got the original Tudor washer bottle. Just had a new pump on there recently. Pretty much everything you can see is original. There may be a few service parts that were swapped over the years, but it all looks like it's been there for quite a while. It's got a new radiator. This car, being a poverty model, only gets the ordinary brake master cylinder. It doesn't have a servo, so you know it's something to bear in mind. If the brakes go, you're really in trouble. There's no dual system on these, and there's certainly no servo. But very, very simple car. What I call the Bernard bracket, because the first owner of the car modified where the header tank sits. So this header tank would normally be in front of the battery, which blocks the, if you can see there Michael, it blocks the access to the headlamp bulb. So back in the day, Bernard, the owner of the car, fabricated the bracket and moved it over here. And he was an engineer, he worked for Vickers, so a very clever chap, and it's probably the best thing on the whole car if I'm being honest. You can also see the wiring. This was quite cutting edge for British Leyland. Very neat sort of multi-cable type wiring loom they've got there, very neatly put together. And these are the fuses. It's only got 5, although it's not exactly dripping with mod cons. There's nothing much on this car really that is electric. Obviously it's got workout windows on the doors and no air conditioning or anything like that, so not even a radio on this particular one. It's got undersill underneath. That was how it was done originally. The car, in fact, you can see in there, Michael, if you zoom in, you'll see the original, what they called Cadulac. It was like a wax oil material that was sprayed all over the car, and I've topped it up with some similar stuff that's the same colour, and it's got like an anti-chip that's on the bonnet, and that's obviously protected it over the years. The thing about this car is I've left it really as it was when I bought it. So the patina that the car has, for me, tells a story. So as soon as I take one thing off and paint one thing, then I might as well do the whole car. So I've kind of left it for the time being as it is, with all the little bits of surface rust on there. Nothing's going to get any worse because it's in a garage. And maybe one day, maybe I will fully restore it. But at the moment, I kind of like it the way it is. And I think, what you see is what you get with one of these. And it was never meant to be a glamorous kind of show car from new. So I've just tried to maintain it as it's always been, really, after all these 45 years. One of the things I really like is when you drop the bonnet, it's got a really heavy clunk to it. So, just again shows how thick the metal is on these cars compared to modern ones. Even though they did rust really badly back in the day, most of that was down to the way that there were too many moisture traps and water could get in, and also paint technology and undersill type technology was nowhere near what it would be today. I mentioned before that with the original design idea, Harris Mann, who designed the car, had in mind that it would have a hatchback, a bit like the Austin Maxi had. But because of the Maxi, BL decided they wouldn't have a hatchback on it. So what we've left with is a very kind of raked rear of the car. It's a very sort of straight line, and legend has it they're more aerodynamic going backwards than they are going forwards. So it really was crying out for a hatchback, but unfortunately that wasn't to be. There was a two-door estate version, which is a little bit kind of quirky to say the least. And one last thing, I think I've probably mentioned this before, Harris Mann, bless him, signed the back of my car for me. You just see in there, Michael, the signature, and that's something that I really kind of treasure on the car. And over here is a little plaque from when it went to Luton last year. It's only a little magnetic one, and that is how I found the first owner of the car. By taking the car to Luton, it helped me find somebody that knew him, and we managed to track him down. If you pan back a bit, you'll see inside the boot. I carry a lot of show stuff with me, blanket to sit on, basil brush, sooty, an old-fashioned picnic set, and the spare wheel has actually got the original tyre on it. So hopefully I'll never need to use it. But there we go, I kept that in there. And if I go further afield, then I take stuff with me to blow the tyre up with in an emergency, that sort of thing. So the other thing that I need to show you really about this car is that being a Series 1, the major problem that British Leyland built into it was the fact that the rear seat sat too far forward. So when you look at the back of an early Allegro, if you look at the rear seat, it sits a long way forward and there's quite a narrow gap to get through. So consequently, adults trying to get in here would really kind of struggle to get in and out easily. And that kind of killed the market a little bit as a kind of compact family car. That did put people off a little bit initially. So British Leyland redesigned the car as a Series 2, and by doing that, they changed all of the internal metalwork and allowed the rear seat to sit further back. And that actually means that the rear parcel shelf on a later car is about that deep, whereas on this one it's about that deep. So it did actually work, but typical Leyland went to all that trouble, a huge amount of trouble, to re-engineer the metalwork for the body shell. But whilst they were in there, they didn't bother to do anything about the way the car looked on the outside. So almost kind of missed the opportunity of spending all that tooling money. Why not just completely change the shape of the car? And obviously they didn't. And the legacy of the Allegro ran all the way through to the early 80s when they finally gave up and the car finished production. So real missed opportunity, typical Leyland. This car was one of the major nails in the coffin for the British motor industry, really, and certainly for British Leyland. They were planning to make hundreds and hundreds of these cars a day, and they never quite got there. The total production was about 650,000 cars, and that was over a longer period than they probably planned originally. So really it just never quite hit the spot, and they never really recovered their reputation from the end of the Allegro project. So it's one of the major problems with Leyland as a story, and it became almost symbolic of all things that were bad about Leyland. And you have to remember that Leyland also owned things like Jaguar and Triumph and Rover, really kind of proud brands and marks in their own right, but through bad management they one by one all suffered. And Austin and Morris, which again had been some of the best-selling cars in the country for many years, just completely lost it. And unfortunately by the end of the 80s Austin Rover and Rover as it became were really kind of on a sort of sliding slope towards extinction, and of course that finally happened in the mid 2000s. But there we go, it's all part of the story.